Hey, I'm Greg Schaefer, and welcome to the virtual CISO moment. Sejal Lakhani-Bhatt joins us today. She is the CEO and top Skittle at TechWerxe. I'm curious to know what top Skittle means. Sejal, thank you so much for joining us today.
Greg, thank you so much for having me. Really pleasure.
So one of the first things that I do have to mention, I know we like going through in the beginning of the podcast, the history of how you got into cyber and your career path and all that. But you are the first person, I'm pretty sure, on this podcast that I've had that is also an alumnus of the University of Buffalo.
Yes, woohoo, go Bills. It's
Eh,
one of the best. Well, more so for the wings than for anything else.
and so I'm going to ask you the same question that you asked me prior to the podcast:
Ooh,
Duff's or Anchor Bar?
100% Duffs any day, anytime, any place.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's anybody going to Buffalo, you have to realize that. And particularly, I think there are a couple of Duffs, but the Duffs on the
There
corner
are.
of Millersport and Sheridan is the best
Yeah,
one.
that's the main one. That's the
Yeah.
best one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So, okay, so we know that you went to the University of Buffalo, but from there, how and why did you get into cyber, and how did it lead you to starting a company, and what are you doing now?
Sure. So that question is going to take a couple twists and turns that you just are not going to see. I actually went to University of Buffalo and I graduated with a legal studies degree and a
Hmm.
dance minor. And
Oh,
I do none of those things now. I basically went into the entertainment industry. I worked at BMG for a little bit and USA Cable, decided that wasn't for me, and went into finance. So then I traversed the banks. I was at Merrill, Deutsche, Morgan Stanley. I was on the trading floor for a while, did all sorts of stuff until I realized I did not want to work anymore. I was
oh,
going to quit my job, be a stay at home mom. I was married. This was in 2012. I had two kids by then. At the time, they were like 4 and 2 or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay at home. And my husband had actually started a company in 2008, a managed service providing company, which is an IT company.
mhm.
And we basically developed an IT company for small and medium businesses to give them enterprise solutions at an affordable price. And I decided I was going to stay at home. That lasted 3 months. 3 months later, I thought my kids were going to kill me. My husband was going to divorce me. I was going to go crazy. And I started working with my husband, who had started TechWerxe. And little by little, 2 years later, I became the CEO of TechWerxe and the top Skittle. And Skittle's just because I love the colors and I love the flavor. And now I'm a sour Skittle girl. But saying top sour Skittle just sounds awful. So I gotta stick with top Skittle. And I basically took TechWerxe from like a small little company to a multi-million-dollar company, and one of the top companies in the US. And so that's where my IT journey began. As you can see, I have zero IT background. A little twist to the story is my husband did pass away 4 years ago.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
in 2019, he passed away quite young and unexpectedly. And I took over the company. And one of my biggest things was looking around and I said, my gosh, you hear all of these breaches, all of these things happening. And you hear these large companies, right? You hear big companies that are getting breached and all the ransom that they're having to pay and all the tools that they have in place. And honestly, a big company like that, you look at some of these companies, they can find $1 million in their couch cushion. But when you're talking
Mhm.
about small and medium businesses, we wanted to develop a solution where businesses would stop saying it's not going to happen to me. And the reason they're saying that is because they can't afford it. They hear cybersecurity and they see dollar signs across the board. And so I wanted to develop a solution stack for cybersecurity that would truly give small and medium businesses the peace of mind and be able to afford a true solution to protect themselves. Because believe it or not, SMBs are more likely to get hit.
Mhm.
They do get hit more often, and
Mhm.
they tend to lose the kind of money that most of us couldn't even think about losing. I'm a small medium business. I'm a small business myself. I can't lose 500,000, let alone a million. And
Mhm.
so when we start talking about these things, we wanted to offer companies that level of security with our expertise.
Well, that's awesome. I want to talk more about that. I want to find out more about what you all offer, but also what you think that the one of the biggest threats to small and mid-sized business cybersecurity is nowadays. But we'll get to that in just a moment. vCISO Services is a small, specialized, veteran-owned information security firm with a calling, founded on Christian values and focused on the needs of small and mid-sized businesses. Our passion is to help small and mid-sized businesses gain a fighting chance in an increasingly hostile cybersecurity threat environment by providing executive part-time virtual CISO services, information security risk management services, and CISO advisory services. Check them out at vcisoservices.com. Okay, so here it is, 2023, midway through the year, and can you believe that we're almost at the
I
halfway point of
know.
2023?
I know.
I
Crazy.
have no I know I sound like an old man saying that, but I have no idea where the time went, and by the way,
I know.
get off my lawn, you know. Um, but now in today's environment, what do you think is like the most significant threat that you see in your business to small and mid-sized businesses and that you try to help them with?
So overall, I think we have a lot of threats to all of our businesses in general,
Mhm.
especially to small and medium businesses. I'm going to say the biggest threat, and this is not going to be an answer most people love, is the ignorance and your people. That's the biggest threat to our businesses. Is and it sounds awful, and I'm not saying there's malintention on our people's side. What I'm saying is, as a business owner, it is our duty, our responsibility to make sure that we have the right training and the right security stack in place. People want to say, oh my God, Sejal, ransomware's up, or this is up, or now look with OpenAI, what are we doing? And these are all valid things. And guys, by the way, as we continue to innovate, we'll continue to have more doors that breachers and bad actors can get into.
Yeah,
There's
like AI. I mean, that's a new thing right now,
exactly,
Terry. Yeah, a
exactly.
new
I'm on a
vector.
panel for AI tomorrow on security, and this is our biggest thing. We don't know what we don't know, but in the end, you need the right stack and you need the right training for your people. And you can't have that attitude of it's not going to happen to me. I promise you, it's going to happen to you if it hasn't already happened. And so that I think is the biggest threat to all small and medium businesses.
So, I always ask that question. I think your answer is spot on. And it dovetails with what I often say is one of the better answers that I've heard. A lot of times people will like come up with the normal, BEC or ransomware or
Right,
whatever. It's like, yeah, we
right.
know that, but that's sort of like, that's temporal. That's not the underlying cause of some of the issues. And like you said, the training and the lack of the right approach, the right attitude to it is really what the underlying issues are. Because if you don't have that in place, then you're going to get affected by BEC or ransomware or
Over and
anything.
over. It'll be a new thing on a new day.
Right, right. Wash, rinse, and repeat. But um, one of the best pieces answers that I had to that was someone who said that, and again, it dovetails with yours, is bad advice. Folks getting
Yeah.
bad advice. So no advice, bad advice. If they don't have the right approach, the right tools in place, they're going to have issues. So, to that point, what is it that TechWerxe can do to help small and mid-sized businesses?
Yeah. So we are a full managed service provider. So we do everything from help desk to, my key isn't working, my mouse isn't moving. We work with companies in mergers and acquisitions. We have a full cybersecurity arm. We even have our own cloud platform. Most of our clients have certain compliances or a lot of compliances. So we work with all different verticals, professional services, manufacturing. But here's what I'm going to say, whether you utilize TechWerxe or a company like TechWerxe, right? Your biggest thing is ignorance is not an answer. You don't need to know all the answers, but you need to know the questions to ask. And you have to have the right experts in place to lead you through that discussion. Anyone that comes into you and says, this is a plan and this is what we're going to do, they're not really thinking about your business. Each business has its own way of behaving, its own kind of people. There's a difference on how here, I'll give you a perfect example. We have manufacturing companies that are as old as can be, and their workforce
Mhm.
is quite old. And we work with them differently than some of the new startup companies that we have or the hedge funds that we have, right? So there's a way to work with each company, and there's a specialized solution. And when I say that, I'm not trying to say money, money, money. I'm not. I'm just saying you've got to have the right solutions in place from the right experts. If you're putting all these solutions in place, you're not monitoring, that's not going to work. If you're
Oh, sure.
monitoring, but
And
not Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for interrupting, but you can't take a one size fit all approach to this. Even if you're
Exactly.
talking about a small business the same size, as far as, even if you talk about a small business the same size, small medium sized business, same number of employees in the same vertical, you still can't apply the same one size fits all
Exactly.
approach to them.
Exactly. And then people say, well, oh, I've got it. I've got all the solutions in place. Well, that's great. Yeah. My nephew's girlfriend looks after everything. I'm like, but that's no. Right. So if you're gonna have the stack, you gotta also have somebody monitoring. If you're gonna have somebody
Mhm.
monitoring it, you gotta make sure that what they're monitoring comes through and it's executed on. And if you're gonna do that, you gotta make sure that you're training your people and have the policies in place.
Mhm.
You don't have all of those things in place, you're not going to be protected.
Well, they often say that security program success starts at the top, and if you don't have the buy-in from the
Yes.
top, you're you're more or less being set up to fail.
Yes.
How
Oof.
would you help a small or mid-sized business that has that issue in their C-suite to make them understand that this is not like just a technology issue. This is a critical business issue that could sink your business, and that maybe you haven't gotten sunk yet because you've gotten lucky.
Or they're not lucky and they don't know that they're sinking, right? That's the
Yeah, it's a
biggest
good
thing,
point.
right?
Yeah.
They could be breached and like, we don't have any issues. I'm like, do you really know that though? If you don't have an alarm on your house and someone breaks in and it's not obvious what they've taken, does that mean they've taken nothing?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. We all put security, right? Security around most of our lives. We have life insurance, we have home insurance, we have car insurance. Those are all proactive measurements that we are taking to protect those things. So let me ask you a question. If you lose your car today, can you survive a day? Will you get through life for a day or two?
Sure,
You'll make
sure.
it?
A
Okay.
day or two would be fine. A week, would be a little tough.
Okay, what if I took all your data? What if I got rid of every aspect that you have, from email to data to documents to your computer? What if I took it all away? Will you
You
survive
know,
an hour?
there's a part of me that actually finds that attractive. But no, I could not do my
It's
job. I could not do
attractive,
my
but you
life. I
might
couldn't
lose a
do
little
anything.
money.
Right. Well, no. What I mean to me personally, it's like, I guess I
Yes.
have like an unfulfillable desire that I would love to just disconnect from everything. But
And I
but
do that. And that, yes, but that is a choice that you're making
right.
where
But
you
if
can
everything's
disconnect
ripped away from me right now, or ripped
and
away
you're
from my
not,
business, that's
yep.
going to be that's an end game. There's no
But
doubt.
would you make it even an hour or 2 hours? How would you answer that next client call?
They couldn't.
How would
I
you
mean,
answer anything?
I couldn't. I couldn't do my job. I mean, nobody could.
You
Because
forget
we
your
are so
job,
ingrained.
but forget your job. What about reputation? So,
Yeah.
right, the answer to right. So the answer to your question is, and all I do is talk to C-suites. I don't, if a C-suite's not going to take my meeting, I'm not going to have a meeting with them. We need to get to the point where IT is no longer looked at as a luxury, but a necessity. And if
Hmm.
you don't understand that, then it's unfortunately going to be a rude awakening at some point, right? So my conversation with the C-suite is that, can you afford to lose $1 million? Can I take every piece of data you have right now and toss it in the garbage so you never get it back? Will your business run? Will your clients call you tomorrow? Will your prospects ever come back to you?
Hmm.
And the answer is no, unequivocally no. The biggest thing that I have an issue with, Greg, is people saying, well, it's not going to happen to us. We're too small. They don't care. That's why it will happen to you, because they know you are too small, that you
Right.
don't have the securities in place, and that I can still get some great information from you and close you down. I can end your business in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and it's so disappointing to hear folks say that, because every time, I'm sure you as well as me, I mean, I'll cringe when I hear someone say that, and it's the exact opposite. Well, we don't have much. We don't have much money. You don't understand. You've got stuff. It isn't just the money sometimes, it's the information, it's what they can do with it.
All
Sometimes
the
it's the
information.
access, like we always go back to the one of the watershed moments, the Target breach back almost 10.
Yes.
It's almost been 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
But it
but
still rears its head.
right, because what was the thing of value to the attackers there. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the information of the HVAC vendor. It was the access the HVAC vendor had.
Exactly.
So you can
Exactly.
never consider you're too small. And if you have that attitude, and if you're a sub for larger organizations, they're not going to like the fact that you have that attitude either, because they won't hire you.
No. And it's also reputation. What is your reputation worth to you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these compliances, when you look at either NIST or ISO or CMMC or all these different compliances that are out there, you have to look and say, a lot of these require you to go and tell your clients that data was stolen. We had a prospect in an accounting company that said, oh, they'd been breached and they lost a whole bunch of tax returns. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah, but it's okay. We had backups. I'm like, I would never use you.
No notification?
At that time, there was no notification. This was about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, and I haven't gotten back to them. They were one of our prospects, and I realized when you have a laissez-faire attitude like that, it's not the right client. But in the end, what is your reputation worth to you?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to see, all of these things together. What does security mean to you?
And you know what? You brought up a good point there, almost tangentially. Sometimes we'll talk about like what makes a good client, and there are times when I also, I'm sure you have turned down opportunities because there wasn't just a fit there. And
Yes.
if there's a prospect out there that's looking for basically a quick fix, come in and make us secure. If I hear that attitude, I'm like, I can't help you. Yeah, I mean,
Nope.
nobody can come
No.
in and just magically make you secure. You have to
No.
you have to do it. I'm here to guide you to help.
The better one is, I have to get cyber insurance. They want all of these things done. Can you just say yes, and then we'll figure it out? That's even
Yeah.
better.
And that's almost
I love
insulting.
that.
It's like,
I
you're
love that.
basically asking me to lie,
But let's forget about that ethical aspect about it for a minute. You do understand if you get breached and they see you don't have these things in place, which by the way are auditable and you can see,
you
they're
won't get
still not
paid.
going to cover you.
Right. And they're so surprised. Like and that happens all the time.
All the time. Yeah, I think people have to start looking at this and taking accountability and realizing this is my company, right? Like you said, it comes from the top. This is my company. This is what I need to do. And the biggest thing that we're trying to do, Greg, is show that it doesn't have to cost you millions of dollars. We can do this as an affordable way. Because again, you can spend $1 million. You can spend more than that trying to become secure. But it really depends on what you truly need. And if you have the right guidance, this is absolutely affordable. And enterprise and these vendors are working with companies like us to make it more affordable for small and medium businesses, because that's where the risk really lies.
Yeah. And one of the easiest ways to make it affordable is do an inventory of your information. And if you don't need it, get rid of it.
Access control, inventory of your information,
Mm-hmm.
proper offboarding procedures. I
Yep.
mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't, people,
It's
I've got,
easy.
it really is. I've got prospects asking me all the time. They're like, what about this? It's just knowing what to do, right? There's settings in O365 that'll give you some added security, but your people have to know how to use it, what to do with it, how to turn it on, how to monitor it when it does beep, right? So
Right.
they're both aspects to it.
Well, it can be frustrating in cyber, and it can be stressful in cyber, and it can definitely be stressful also being a small, medium sized business owner, entrepreneur. And I love asking folks what they do, an example of what they do to decompress, because we all need to decompress. Otherwise, we can't go 24/7, 365 at a high stress level. We're not built that way. What's one
No.
of the things you do to get away? You go to Bills games, maybe?
Not in a long time. I'd love to, though.
Yeah,
It
me
has
neither.
been a while. So I have two boys that are 14 and 12. So I am that soccer mom. I am every weekend, every night. Yeah. And they're both like, they're both going national now. So we're all over the world, playing soccer all the time.
Wow.
But what I do to decompress is I actually get away. So, last year I went away for about 45 days. I worked for about 5 hours. I have an amazing team. My right-hand man is incredible. So, really, I tune out. I turn off for a little bit. I have a great support system. I have a great team. I take some me time and I travel with my boys, or I travel with my friends. I travel with my family. But that's my me time.
That's a very, very helpful approach to it, and I wish that a lot more folks in the industry had that sort of approach to it, because burnout is a serious problem. Well, what about future
Yeah.
plans? What's coming down the coming in the future for either you or for TechWerxe, or both?
So I don't know if you know this or if it was in the thing. So I own 5 businesses right now.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a real estate investment agency as well, and I have a whole bunch of stuff. And so my future plan is probably to, bring that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, I love being an entrepreneur and I love helping businesses. So I've been doing a lot of sort of consulting, and I don't want to say coaching, but sort of consulting and like sort of life consulting on the side. And I'd love to see, do a little more of that, and more so just speaking. I speak across the country. And so I want to start doing more of that and less of the other kind of businesses that I'm working on. And that's really it for TechWerxe. We're growing. So I'm loving
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm loving every minute of it. My boys love it. So they love hearing me on the phone and talking to people and looking at all the marketing and all that stuff. So it's really just continue growing, helping
Awesome.
businesses. Yeah.
Well, Sejal, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate the time, and best of luck with everything. And
You.
I'm looking forward to the Bills this year. I'm not a Bills fan that much anymore, but yeah, I don't know. I think I need to. It's been about 20 years since I've been to a game. I think I need to go. So
Yeah, I was there last year. I think was it Super Bowl last year or something, where they
yeah,
were, or the semi, whatever it was. I obviously you see my sports stuff, and
I, I
I was
can't.
at it
I
was I
can't
think it
remember
was last
actually.
year.
Yeah, I
It
think
was
so
last
too.
year because I showed up in Buffalo. I was in Buffalo for that final game, that last game before the World Series or whatever. Or not World Series, you know what I'm talking about.
The Super
Super Bowl.
Bowl,
See,
right?
this is the problem with me. And and woo, and I showed up and they lost. They lost in that like same overtime,
Oh,
whatever
so it was
kind
your
of thing.
fault.
And no, so I went to Buffalo, and obviously they're all huge fans over there. And I was
Right.
at his house, and they all have all their normal processes that they go through, all their good luck. I'm not allowed at his house anymore. Fully banned from ever coming over. He's like, you ruined everything. So I'm not really sure I'll make it to another one.
Well, now that I think about it, it's like I really haven't been a regular in Buffalo since they lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. So maybe I had some sort of bad luck thing when I was up
There
there. I
we
don't know.
go. See,
So,
band together.
well, thanks again for the time, and everybody stay secure.